This is Warlock Alder Strauss, and you're watching the Demented one. Has anyone seen my fedora?
I want you to pray to your God. I want you to pray that He comes and saves you. Always obey the Demented. I am the devil, and I am here to do the devil's work.
What's up, YouTube? Welcome back to the Demented One channel. I'm your host, Tex, and I have a very, very special guest tonight. Someone I have been wanting to get on the show for a very long time, and that is none other the Gimp Pimp himself, Warlock Robert Leuthold. Robert, welcome, man.
How you doing? And when you say special, you mean like cool guy, not window licking type of stuff,
Well, yeah,
right?
yeah. Yeah, cool guy.
Yeah.
How you doing?
I'm doing pretty good tonight, actually. Thanks for asking.
Awesome, man. Awesome. Yeah, like I said, I'm very glad and excited to have you on. I know we've talked about it for a while, and
We kind of went back and forth,
yeah.
and like, well, you know, I just wanted to give you something completely new, completely different. I wanted to be entertaining. I mean, unfortunately, you know, people are gonna have to look at my face through this whole thing.
Well, they have
But-
to look at my face all the time. So.
You know, so it works well.
Right.
Whether or not they're laughing at me or laughing with me, they're laughing, and that's the point.
Well, hey, they always are laughing at me, so don't feel
Yeah.
bad. No, man, but honestly, a while back when you were scheduled to come on, you know, we scheduled a beginning. I had a couple of people inbox me saying, "Man, I can't wait to your interview with Robert." So I know a lot of people are excited, man, to see this.
Yeah, and then, like, you had the thing happen with your work. And
Yeah.
then I was like, well, because, you know, I didn't want to oversaturate. I'd been doing some other stuff, and I didn't want, you know, to do the interview with you, and then people say, oh, this guy again? What's up with his ego? You know?
Right.
I mean, my ego is, like, huge enough where it needs its own zip code, and it's probably working on trying to annex Poland or some shit. But, you know, the point is, if people want to talk to me, I'll give them my best or my least worst, depending on your perspective.
Right.
But it's a pleasure being on here, and I have watched your other interviews, and I enjoy what you do.
Awesome, man. Well, thank you so much.
And before we go any further, congratulations on finally joining the Church of Satan. I'm proud of you.
Absolutely, man. I'm very proud to be a member, so don't take it lightly, and I'm very honored and proud. So, yeah. Now, funny thing is, I was watching on your YouTube channel. You had a video of your. It was something about the coffee, and I fucking thought that was hilarious.
That's something I'll never do again. That was entirely too much caffeine at once. What it was, as it's pretty obvious to anyone who follows my YouTube channel, I love coffee. And I saw something about double brewing coffee, which is basically brewing a pot of coffee and then taking the coffee itself and running it through the machine with a second filter. You know, so it's like,
It's crazy.
you get like double and triple hit with the caffeine, and it was just fucking nuts.
I would be fucking shaking everywhere. I know.
Yeah.
Robert, I want to get into this. I know we've got a lot to discuss and talk about, but before we get into anything, for some people that might be watching that don't know who you are, if you don't mind, talk a little bit, tell us a little bit about who you are and stuff.
Sure. About 38 years ago, my biological father turned to my mom and, you know, stuff happened that night. We all know I was not I was not a divine kind of child. My parents obviously fucked for me to get here. But, things weren't in the cards for me to be whatever normal is. I came out a few months early with a quarter on my neck, severe jaundice. My lungs collapsed at birth, so it was like right from out of the gate, it was touch and go. I wasn't expected to live the night, but I guess it was in the cards for me to piss people off for a while. I don't know.
Absolutely.
So here I am 38 years later in Mississippi for like the first 2 years of my life, and then they moved, and my father left. More on that later because it segues into something else. But my mom had been kind of searching, and she would go to like the tent revivals, and they would see me, and they would move us to the front of the line to try the faith healing bullshit. And Mom, I love my mom, and she's openly Catholic, but even back then, she saw through the bullshit. But, who am I to judge? It gets her through her day.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah, I have an aunt like that. When my mother passed away, she helped raise me. Yeah. And I've talked about it before on the show. But she's a very huge Christian. I mean, she's very heavily in her church and everything. But, aside from that, I don't care about that. But aside from that, she is a great woman. I love her and totally respect her. So I know where you're coming from on that, man.
And for like the first 8 to 10 years of my life after my father left, I basically had 3 moms because it was my mom and my sisters that raised me, which may have something to do with why I shop as much as I do. I don't know. I know I don't have the best fashion sense, but damn, I love to shop.
Now, Robert, everybody here's Gimp Pimp that knows you.
Yeah.
Where did that come from?
Okay, it's so funny because Hydra actually had a hand in that.
Okay.
I've been writing for her magazine, Infernal Ink, for a while.
Right.
And I've taken the position of, and I'm sure you've heard the, once you go black, you never go back. Right. Well, I've taken that, and it's once you go gimp, you walk with a limp. So, and, I'm not trying to brag, but I do get, attention from the female persuasion, and on occasion it's men, so... whatever works, and it's the Gimp Pimp,
Gimp Pimp, yeah.
And, with me writing horror erotica, it's like, it disturbs some people and turns them on all at the same time, so it works well.
Awesome. Very nice. Now, let's talk about something that, I don't want to say caused controversy, but, I thought it was a great essay that you wrote, and it was published in Church of Satan's news feed and everything. And I thought it was great, and it was the appropriate time, I think, to be released. And that was your essay, "What Has Satanism Done for You?"
Oh yes, and I know exactly what you mean by cause controversy. It made a couple of people, let's just say, upset.
Mm-hmm.
It upset certain people in certain circles, and I wasn't actually intending for that to happen, but when I hurt feelings, I mean, do I look like I give a shit?
No, not at all.
That actually has its roots. I wrote that about a year and a half ago. I think about a year and a half, maybe even 2 years ago, in the unofficial group, because I I'd seen the question. It's like, what has Satanism done for you?
Mm-hmm.
And it's never about what Satanism does for you. It's what you get out of Satanism when you apply it to your life.
Absolutely. The principles and everything, yeah.
Exactly. And, I mean, sure, the membership in the Church of Satan was optional, but so many doors were open for me once I did become a member, and there's always going to be these different people. Oh, well, he's only where he is because he's been kissing ass, and he's a Church of Satan lapdog, and blah 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 blah.
Yeah.
First off, I'm not a lapdog. I'm a pit bull terrier.
Oh yeah.
And second off, I don't kiss ass.
Mm-hmm.
Even if someone doesn't like me, I try to respect them.
Right. Well,
I give everyone respect.
Yeah, I want to say that too. There's a difference, because I'm like you. I've heard a lot of people say, oh, you're just an ass kisser with the COS or whatever. But there's a difference from ass kissing and respect for something.
Yeah.
I think people can't, or some people, I don't want to say all people, but some people can't grasp that there's a difference. I'm not an ass kisser. I know I have respect for an organization that Anton LaVey started, and the principles that he laid in the Satanic Bible.
And Maestro Gilmore, I find, has definitely done an exemplary job in keeping that going and really honing the principles and bringing us to, we are now 50 years in.
Right.
I'm wearing the year 50 shirt.
For my sake, right?
I went, yes, and I went to the, actually this is from Rabbit Trail, I believe.
Oh, okay.
And I went to the last get-together.
That's right.
It was a wonderful time.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of like Fight Club, though. You don't talk about, Fight Club.
Right.
So, sorry, folks, you're not getting any kind of secret skinny from what went on there. What happened at Conclave stays at Conclave.
Mm.
Sorry.
Awesome. Now, Robert, I want to ask you, I know we're both members of the Church of Satan, we don't speak for the Church of Satan whatsoever.
No, we don't. And I would never presume to.
Right. And I'm sure you've heard a lot of people say, the Church of Satan is, it died with Anton LaVey. And, it's not doing anything, blah, blah, blah. You've heard the same old bullshit.
Yeah,
what's your thoughts on that, Robert?
My question to those people, and they might be watching this interview because I know that some of them have subscribed to your channel, is what do you want us to do? I mean, do you want us to all wear Baphomet thongs and parade down Main Street in a rocket line? Do you want us, do you want us to be attention whores? Or do you want us to live our lives to the best that we can and people find out that we're Satanists later? I don't know about you, but I would prefer the second option myself.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think a lot of people, they think Satanism is a cause. We've got to go out and tell the world we're Satanists. But that's not what Satanism is at all.
No.
And, I think a lot of these people that say that, I've heard our high priestess, Peggy Nadremia, say, these are the type of people that look at the Church of Satan or whatever and say, what do you have for me? What can you do for me?
Right.
And it's not about what the Church of Satan can do for you. It's, you've got to do yourself. You've got
to kind of crib on President John F. Kennedy, ask not what the Church of Satan can do for you or what Satanism can do for you, but what you can do for Satanism and what you can do for the Church of Satan.
Right.
Show what you can bring to the table, and it will be noticed.
Right. Yeah.
It will be noticed, and if it's shit or it's subpar, you're going to be called out on that too.
Right. Yeah. Absolutely. And I've seen that. And I used to hear people say, well, the Church of Satan doesn't do anything, and I never thought anything about it. But now, with this channel especially, and interviewing some of the great people that I have interviewed, like yourself, it's amazing because the Church of Satan, it's about the people, what they're doing in their lives and applying Satanism to it. I mean, it's amazing, man, what some of these people are doing. And, yeah, it's awesome.
When I was doing the walking a while back, I was joking that, eventually I'd be putting on the Ritz like from Young Frankenstein. That never happened, but the point is, I did what I wanted to do.
Right, yeah.
And it's not like, oh, hey, look at me, give me attention, me. It's, this is what I'm doing. If you like it, great. If you don't like it, great. I'll do something else that you will like.
Right. Absolutely. Speaking to that effect, I've heard you talk about your surgery. You had a surgery.
Yeah.
The hospital. I want to kind of lay the ground for the people that's watching. A lot of times when I see people, they get sick, or near death or whatever, they turn to a God, and they turn to faith, if you want to call it, and but you still stayed firm in what you believed, being as a Satanist. Could you talk a little bit about that and that experience?
Sure. Actually, I think this is going to be the most frank that I've ever situation, and it's going to segue into something else. But to be quite honest, the whole situation stemmed from me not taking care of myself properly. Mm-hmm. I wasn't eating right. I wasn't sleeping right. I was drinking way too much. But, this all came from something I'm going to talk a little bit about later.
Right.
My depression issues.
Mm-hmm.
And what happened was it caught up with me. Mm-hmm. What ended up happening is I went with my parents to their on their wedding anniversary, my mom and my stepdad. We went out. I had a really good lunch. Went to the bathroom, figured it was indigestion. Then about an hour and a half later, I started getting sick. And my stomach started hurting, and it just got worse to the point where my mom realized something was wrong when I turned down a steak dinner.
Right.
And I fucking love steak. Mm-hmm. And they had to end up rushing me to the emergency room that night. And they found out that I had a hiatal hernia. 45% of my stomach was shoved up under my rib cage.
Wow.
I had 6 gallstones, ulcers, and I think maybe a partridge in a pear tree in there somewhere. And, on top of that, my bladder was swollen. So it's like, it was all of this stuff. Mm-hmm. And I keep going back and saying, if circumstances would have been different, if I would have been at my apartment with my help staff, I wouldn't be giving this interview to you right now.
Right.
But it's like they had to give me morphine to settle my stomach, to give me the CAT scan so they could see what was wrong with me. Mm-hmm. And it was like I had to go from living in my own apartment, doing whatever I wanted, staying up all hours of the night, eating whatever the hell I wanted, to moving back to my parents' house, which was traumatic in itself.
I can imagine.
And then having to go through the surgery where they moved my stomach back down, they wrapped everything. I've got a mesh now down in my stomach where everything is how it should be, and I don't have a gallbladder anymore. And that's all a learning curve. So I had all of this happen, but not once did I ever say, you know what, that's it, I'm going to give in, let me hop back over to Christianity. I had that spark. I had what we call the black flame deep inside me, and it's like, fuck this, I'm not going to give up. I mean, there were days when I was so frustrated, I was like, I can't do this anymore.
Right.
It was just because, like, I had catheter issues too, and I'm not going to go too much into that because that's a low TMI, but, you know, it was frustrating. It was touch and go, but the amount of support I received from fellow COS members and friends of mine that not only considered themselves Satanists, but people that considered themselves my friend, and they still do. I had so many people pulling for me.
Right.
And I came back from that. It was hard. When you go from eating whatever you want to having to have pureed food for like 3 weeks, it's like, oh.
Yeah. That's.
I got through it.
Oh yeah, it's awesome. That's one of the things I have to say that I respect the most about you is you are a very strong individual, strong-willed individual, and that to me is just fucking awesome. And total respect for that, man.
Thank you.
Total respect. Now, moving on to kind of the thing that I ask all my guests is on the Satanism segment of the show. When and how did you realize you were a Satanist?
Many years ago, back when the world was young and all we had was dial-up internet, I graduated high school when I was 17 years old, which, you know, funny story, when I was like 2-3 years old, you know, back around preschool age, I was at a developmental school, and, you know, because back then there was really no mainstreaming. There was nothing like that. Right. I was in a developmental school with a bunch of severe and profound kids, and my mom was like, no, this is not what I want for him. So she forced them to take me out of the developmental school, and she still got the note that the head of the school signed against my better judgment. I'm putting him in regular school. And that same guy actually ended up going to my high school graduation.
Oh, wow.
But anyway, it was that summer. The summer I graduated, I had discovered King Diamond, which fucking awesome musician.
Right.
And I also credit the Electric Hellfire Club for me discovering and subsequently rediscovering Satanism. Because some people it was a straight shot, not so much for me. Because I found out about Satanism through King Diamond. I realized, you know, it wasn't all horror movies and animal sacrifices and everything else. But I was 17 years old. I'd been sheltered for so long. And I really wasn't mature enough to comprehend it. So it's like I went first phase hardcore. And then my mom noticed the book. She's like, you got 3 weeks. Either get rid of the book or find a new place to live.
Wow.
So it's like, I went away from that for a while. I did my searching, and about when I was 21, 22, I got in Lords of Chaos, which is a book about the black metal scene in Norway.
Mm-hmm.
And I read about, the Electric Hellfire Club.
Mm-hmm.
And I listened to the music. I started with Burn Baby Burn, and it was like a homecoming. It really was.
Awesome.
And I'm like, okay, so this is what it is. Because at the time I had contacted Reverend Thorne via his email, and he directed me to the now defunct Satanism 101 website.
Mm-hmm.
And I did, like I said, the research, and it all clicked. And as they say, the rest is history.
Right. Awesome, man. Now, you said your mother said you had a couple of days to get out of the house when she fell.
Either get rid of
Bible, right?
Get out of the house.
Okay. How does she, or today, how does she feel? I mean, is that something you talk about, or just kind of under the rug?
We don't discuss it. I've already promised them, what I do regarding the church. It's separate.
Right.
We're family. You don't have to agree. I won't judge you for your beliefs. Well, let's just move on.
Awesome. I think that's very cool because, and I'm sure you've seen, a lot of people say or think that you have to shove it down someone else's throat or whatever, oh, well, you need to respect what I am, or, tell the world what I am. But that's
no one needs to respect anything.
Right.
Respect has to be earned.
Definitely. I agree 100%.
And, honestly, you shouldn't treat your Satanism like you're a porn star and it's your 7-foot dick and you're trying to shove it down everyone's throat.
That is very true.
Or if you're going to try that, at least give people the courtesy of a reach around,
Right. Right. Yeah, because, so many people have, or I don't want to say so many, but people that I've encountered have this concept of Satanism is it's about proclaiming it to the world. And that's just fucking stupid, as me and you know.
Well, honestly, it's a very common thing that happens in first phase.
Yeah, that's very true.
Because it's something new. You feel liberated. You're like, oh, great, I've got to tell everyone. Yeah. I've got to go in chat rooms and get in discussions with Christians and tell them how they're wrong.
Yeah.
From experience, and it's kind of like, I really have to do that?
Well, I can't lie, man. I probably would be in that category as first phase. I've went through that, with the anti-Christian or whatever, because I was brought up in a very, very religious household, and so I can relate to that kind of, but
yeah, definitely.
Now I want to ask your opinion on something, and I know we've kind of touched on it a little bit about pseudos. What's your thoughts on other, I don't want to call them satanic organizations, but other organizations that claim to be satanic, that's kind of watering down what Anton LaVey codified in the Satanic Bible as Satanism?
I'm hesitant to really give them any airtime or credence whatsoever, because even bringing them up now, they're going to be like, oh, you see?
Right.
You see? They're mentioning us. But, I mean, quite honestly, it's because they know they can't cut the mustard. They can't reach the bar that we've set. And they're jealous more than anything else. I mean, not to mention an organization that has a statue that looks like a bad Kmart mannequin on crack. Back in my day, Baphomet had tits, Anyway, it's that I think that they're free to do what they want, but they shouldn't call it Satanism.
Yeah, I totally agree. Yeah. I like what Magus Peter H. Gilmore said. We are the ones with the literature, so no matter what, we're still going to be here.
Right, and what it comes down to is, and I'm going to be blunt, I mean, all of these other people, you can go through Create Space, or you can go through Lulu, or you can go through all of these different publishing on demand websites, slap a book together, which you don't even have to research. I mean, so many of these people want to plagiarize ideas and call it satanic, and they can make a quick buck, but then when the legitimate people come around, it's like, oh, how dare you trash my book.
Absolutely. Totally agree. Well, Robert, I want to get on to something that me and you discussed that is kind of going to be the main part of this show, and that is the depression segment.
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about that and expound on the things you've experienced with depression as being a Satanist?
I think that when it comes to depression, which is a form of, mental illness, I think a lot of Satanists forget, they get too wrapped up into the might is right, and I am my own God, and I have to be perfect, and I can't show any weakness whatsoever. Bullshit.
Right.
Bullshit. My mind, and I've used this analogy before, my mind is like a web browser with 20 tabs open all at once. It's so hard for me to focus. And I first started to know that something was wrong when I was about 16 or 17. I would get sad and, down for no reason. And I brought it up to my mom, and she would say, oh, it's because you're on the computer too much, or, oh, you play too many video games, or whatever. But when I'm at my absolute worst, I don't self-harm. I never have, and I never will. I use a lot of self-deprecating humor, which you kind of noticed early in the interview. It's a way to keep my ego in check, but it's also, low level, the depression manifesting. But when I'm absolutely at my worst, it's not that I can't function, but it's like I'm drowning. I can't see past that moment. And we live, we should, anyway, live in the eternal moment.
Right.
But it's okay to be flawed. It's okay to have these problems as long as we recognize them.
Right.
And we work to overcome them. And there's no shame in, and that's what I've been doing, because I just came out of a depressive cycle, and a few people knew. A few people knew, they could tell. There were some people I reached out to.
Right.
And, I'm not going to sit here and name drop. I have friends. I know I'm cared for and loved. But when you're in the thick of it, when you're in the eye of that storm, you don't see the damage that it's doing. You don't see things around you. And that is why I have always made sure to be, aware when it's setting in, so I don't lash out, so I don't abuse other people, so I don't abuse my loved ones. And by loved ones, I'm not even talking about sexual partners, former girlfriends, what have you. I'm talking about people I genuinely care for, people that enrich my life. I mean, I don't want to treat them like shit because I can't control what's going through my mind.
Right.
You know, when my depression hits, my mind short circuits, and I can't see positive.
Right.
It's like everything sucks, and nothing swallows. But you know, everything sucks,
right?
And it's tough, but it is possible to be a Satanist and manage this. I use the depression as a creative outlet as well for some of my poetry. And it's not something to be ashamed of.
Right.
If it's who you are, recognize that it's who you are and make it work for you.
Right.
If you have to get, there's no shame in that. The problem is when you know that there's a problem and you do nothing about it and you treat people like shit and you say, oh, it's okay, I'm depressed, or oh, I've got mental illness. No, it doesn't work that way.
Right.
You know, if you behave that way, you're just being an asshole.
Right. Now, you know, I mean, we're all asshole in our own sense to certain
Guilty.
people. Now, do you think that, because, I mean, a lot of people that know you, like myself, that follow you on social media, and we see the sarcasm and stuff, but is it sometimes like when the sarcasm is really going, is it during a depression state that you're in, or?
Well, the thing is, I very rarely out and out say, oh, I'm depressed.
Right.
Because I don't want to say so much that I internalize it, but, and this goes back to what I mentioned earlier. When my biological father left when I was like 2 years old, you know, abandonment issues manifested, and it affected a lot of my formative years. It affected a lot of relationships over the years, where no matter how bad it got, I would hang in there because I didn't want to be left.
Right.
Now, I told you before we did this interview this would be like the most forthright I've ever been and the most vulnerable I've ever been.
Right.
This is generally not something I talk about so freely because, honestly, if you put this level of vulnerability out there, you give people who would want to do you harm, who would want to see you fail, tools to destroy you. But the way I figure it, if I put myself out there, you know, not in like an attention whorish way,
Right.
but if I put myself out there, I might actually reach someone else that's going through something similar who can say, I'm not alone in this.
Right.
You know, I want to, you know, I don't want to be like some kind of depression activist or anything like being a fetish because some people are into wheelchairs, you know. Hey, call me. But, you know, the thing is, I figure that so many people are so stuck on the might is right, we must be perfect, we must not show any form of weakness because we are our own gods.
Right.
At the end of the day, you're human, you cry, you hurt.
Yeah.
Things don't always go perfectly.
Right.
But it's okay. That's when you stop, you reassess, you dust yourself off, you cry if you need to, and then you go at it again.
All right. Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head when you said, we are humans. Yes, we're Satanists, but we are humans, and we do have these, things that do hurt, or things that do make us depressed, or whatever.
Yeah.
But I guess it's how we handle those things. Like you said, it helps you with your writings.
Yeah.
You go more deep. Do you think that some people might, I don't know what the word I'm looking for is say, okay, well, I am a Satanist, but I'm not going to let anybody know that I do deal with depression. Do you think it's good to talk about or confide into someone maybe you trust?
Only with someone you trust, but I will say that repressing or bottling it up is the worst thing you could do, because when you do that, eventually the bottle's going to be full, and there's going to, those are never good.
Mm-hmm.
Those are definitely never good.
Right. Yeah, I think I think a lot of people, and not only Satanists, but I think a lot of people deal with some type of depression. Whether it be, a small portion or what, but I think a lot of people do deal with some type of depression at least once or twice in their life. And I really do, like you said, I think it is important to talk about it with someone that you do trust. Because, like if you just go blab it to anybody, and especially if your enemies get a hold of it, they'll use that, so to speak, against you.
Oh yeah, look, I know I have enemies, but you know what my view on enemies are?
Mm-hmm.
My view, either way it goes, at the end of the day, they're my misplaced fans, and I'm in their mouth anyway. So,
Right.
They could at least give me the courtesy of swallowing when they're done.
That's great. Oh, Robert, now, with you talking about depression and everything, I know you kind of touched a little bit on your writings, how you help deal with it. But what are some other ways maybe that if someone's watching, say even a Satanist is watching, and they deal with depression, what is one of the, maybe a couple of things that you do that helps you through it?
Well, for me, self-hypnosis, for one. Meditation, for another thing. My writing, like I said, is my main outlet, and when I'm really at my worst, it's like I'll put on different music, like My Dying Bride and Typo Negative are two really, really big ones for me. And it's through Typo Negative that I learned to deal with my depression through sarcasm and, again, self-deprecating humor. But line with that second one, where if you use it too much, you start to believe it. It's like negative reinforcement, and there you go all over again.
All right. Awesome. Well, I think it was great that you talked about the depression. I think that was great.
Yeah.
And kudos to you, man, for being open on that, because a lot of people, unfortunately, aren't open on it. I mean, so.
Well, again, it's like it took me many, many years to just be at that point where I could be open on it. And just learn to trust people.
Right. Yeah.
Because I have been deeply, deeply hurt over the years by people I thought I could trust, and
totally.
They're like, and in my case, and I'm not trying to be down on myself, but with my situation, having the disability and everything, it's a lot of work, and I posted about this. It is a lot of work.
Mm-hmm.
And no matter how much I try to, warn people, as much as I say, once you go camp, you walk with a limp, ha ha ha, my friend's running for the parking, blah, blah, blah. It is a lot of work. And it takes people of sterner stuff to deal with me on a regular basis. And it's not to say that I'm a tyrant, but, well, I am. So, going on. But, it takes a lot to deal with someone with a disability. There's a lot of physicality involved. I mean, you're walking down the street, you walk over a crack in a sidewalk, no big deal. If I hit a crack in a sidewalk wrong and I'm not buckled into my chair, free Superman impression,
Yeah. Well, Robert, there's something before the show and everything. I was talking to my girlfriend because she was asking me who I was going to have on the show tonight and stuff, and we were talking a little bit about you. And one of the things I think is awesome about you, other human beings that don't have a disability or whatever you want to call it, they don't do nothing with their fucking life. They're just a waste of breath. But someone like you, man, I mean, you are out there and just, in my opinion, are a strong human being, man. And I have total respect for that. And I think that's awesome.
I mean, the enemies I have made, they like to say, well, all he ever does is he's online all day, or he does this all day, or he doesn't do anything, or, well, I heard that he does blah, 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 blah. Well, keep fucking talking.
Right.
You're commenting in a YouTube comment section about me, and you're wasting your precious time focusing on me.
Yeah.
Keep it coming.
Yeah,
I
get
my ego.
Right. Yeah, I get a lot of those, man. I get a lot of hate mail, whatever you want to call it. And, I'll make a video or do a video or something. I'll say what I have to say, and that's it. I feel like I've said what I need to say. But there'll be people out there that just wants to sit there all day on the computer and write books and just talk shit all day. And it's like, well, I'm not going to respond to you because I have better things to do with my life. I'm too busy doing other things.
And you can use this one if you want, but, arguing with someone online is like being in the Special Olympics. Win or lose, you're still a fucking retard.
That's great. That's great. Awesome. Well, Robert, I ask every single guest of mine on this show, and I'm sure you've answered this probably tons of times with other people, but as being a Satanist, what does being a Satanist mean to you?
Being a Satanist to me means being the best that I can be, the best me that I can be, despite and because of my flaws.
Mm-hmm.
Through that, I create what I want to create. I live my dreams.
Mm-hmm.
I've met people, I've met bands that I idolized. I've met the members of Mayhem multiple times.
Nice.
I've met Rotting Christ. Recently, I have been in liner notes in different bands' albums, like Chaos Baphomet thanked me,
Nice.
Funeral Storm and Celestial Rite thanked me, and my friend Sockets was instrumental in all of that. And it's like I followed my passions my entire life.
Mm-hmm.
And Satanism is about following your passions, being the best you that you can be. living life, being happy, lusting, loving, living.
Mm-hmm.
No matter what anyone says, do what you want to do as long as it's legal,
Right.
as long as kids aren't harmed, as long as what you're doing doesn't go against Satanism.
Right.
Do you be the best you that you can be. That's what Satanism means to me.
Awesome. Now, I'm not going to try to be like John Shaw right now and say this, but it's honest. That is the best answer I have received on this show. It's true. It's true. It's a great answer, man. Awesome. Robert, thank you so much for taking the time out of your schedule and coming on the show. It has been an honor to have you.
Of course, anytime.
It's been great having you, especially with you opening up on, your depression and talking about that. Awesome, man.
Not a problem, man. And again, thanks for having me.
Absolutely.
And just be prepared for the comments you're going to get, because I'm pretty sure there's going to be some good ones.
Oh, yeah. They always are.
I'm pretty sure there's going to be some not so good ones, but...
All right. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, man. And ladies and gentlemen, that's going to wrap it up for this show. And until next time, y'all know the deal. Stay safe and always hail Satan.
Hail Satan.